We own the sky now, or so we think. From warplanes to satellites, from cargo to cameras, we've conquered the air with metal and fire. We look up and feel in control. But before the first god was named, before the first pyramid touched the clouds, the sky belonged to something else. It had no jet, no engines, no blueprint, and yet it flew. In the late 20th century, we found the bones of a myth hiding in the earth. The largest creature to ever take to the air. A being so vast, so impossibly light and powerful, that even now, we struggle to believe it existed. We call it Quetzalcoatlus, after the feathered god of the ancient Mexica. But the truth behind its flight is even stranger than the legend. It ruled the sky, until the sky itself turned against it. This is not just the story of a flying giant. It's the story of how life once reached for the heavens and then vanished into myth. Some say we inherited the sky from the birds, but long before the birds, the sky was owned by monsters. And of them all, this one was king. Long before empires rose, before gods had names, before we carved memory into stone, there was a moment when we first looked up at the stars and asked, who are we? Before we step into the ancient past of today's story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it if you believe this history matters. Tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to be in conversation with those who believe in truth, memory, and the story of us. But only if you truly love what we do here. Now, let the journey begin.
To know what truly ruled this earth, we must unearth a forgotten empire of wings, bones, and memory. The desert was silent. No wind. No birds. Only the endless sun beating down on cracked stone and time-buried secrets. Then, bone. Just a sliver at first, sticking out of the rock like a knife's hilt from the earth. It was 1971 in Big Bend National Park, Texas. A team of paleontologists brushed away the past one grain at a time. What they uncovered didn't look like it belonged to anything alive today. Not a bird. Not a reptile. Not even a dinosaur. It was something else. The neck alone was taller than a man. The wing bone stretched longer than a pickup truck. And when they finished piecing it together, the realization hit like thunder. This was the largest creature ever to fly. Its name would echo like an ancient god, Quetzalcoatlus Northropi. Named after a myth. Built like nothing else that ever lived. Its wingspan may have reached 11 meters. That's longer than a bus. Taller than a giraffe. And yet, this titan was airborne. A body the size of a small horse. Hollow bones as light as a dream. A beak like a spear. And wings, vast, leathery membranes stretched tight over arms like catapults. For decades, scientists argued. Could it really fly? Or did it merely glide? Did it soar like a vulture or stalk like a stork? The answers were hidden, scattered across continents, etched in stone and mystery. Because Quetzalcoatlus was not alone. It was part of a forgotten dynasty. The pterosaurs, rulers of the sky long before birds, long before humans. An entire order of flying reptiles, some no bigger than sparrows, and some, like this one, as large as fighter jets. They were not dinosaurs. They were their cousins and evolved separately, older, stranger. But Quetzalcoatlus was the crown. The final, featherless monarch of the sky. It lived near the end. Just before the impact. just before extinction swallowed the giants. It walked on 4 limbs. Wings folded like arms, legs moving like a beast on patrol. It didn't flap endlessly. It launched, vaulted into the air with explosive strength. Once airborne, it glided for miles without a single beat. It ruled the skies over what is now North America. A warm, humid land laced with shallow seas, teeming with life. Below it, turtles, crocs, young dinosaurs. Above, nothing. It flew alone. Some think it fed on small prey. Others believe it scavenged, its massive beak ideal for picking apart carrion. It may have stalked the shores like a giant heron, silent, lethal. But even now, we're still guessing. Because when the bones were found, no one expected flight. The weight. The size. It shouldn't be possible. But nature does not ask for permission. It builds what it must to survive. And in the case of Quetzalcoatlus, it built a miracle of bones and wind. Modern engineers have studied its skeleton to learn how to make machines fly farther, lighter, smarter. NASA has modeled drones after its proportions. The Sky Titan still teaches. And yet, no museum can truly capture what it meant to live under wings that could darken the sun. To hear the wind scream as it took off. To feel the shadow pass over you like an omen. To witness, not a bird, but a god, sailing through the heavens. We don't remember it because no human ever saw it. But the earth remembers. The bones were buried for 70 million years. Buried, but not broken. And now, they rise again, not as flesh, but as story. Because this was not just the biggest thing that ever flew. It was a monument to life's audacity. A symbol of a forgotten kingdom in the clouds. And its reign is not over. Because every time we look up, every time we build wings and chase the sky, we follow the path it carved. The bones are old. But the memory still flies. Flight is not an accident. It is rebellion. It is a challenge hurled against gravity, against the pull of Earth itself. And life answered that challenge again and again. Flight has evolved only 3 times in all of Earth's long story. First, in the ancient, alien world of the insects, millions of years before the dinosaurs, before trees, before flowers. Wings shimmered over swamps. Dragonflies the size of hawks ruled skies heavy with oxygen. Their wings were fixed, no flapping, no folding. They rose straight into the air like whispers of evolution's first dream. Then came the second uprising, the pterosaurs. Born not from bugs, but from reptiles. Their ancestors crawled through the Triassic, small, nimble, hungry. Some clambered up trees and stretched their limbs to leap. Skin caught wind. Muscle remembered. And from those gliders came the skywalkers. They were not birds. No feathers. No breastbone. Instead, skin, stretched from elongated fourth fingers like living kites. Their bones were paper-thin, filled with air. Their brains rewired, eyes sharpened, reflexes ignited. Some could hover. Others could dive. And then there were the giants. For 160 million years, pterosaurs ruled the skies. Longer than mammals have existed. Longer than birds. Longer than us. Among them, Quetzalcoatlus was the finale. But it was not the beginning. There were others, Tapejara with a colorful crest like a sail. Pteranodon, gliding like a ghost over Primeval seas. Hatzegopteryx, thick-necked and brutal. Each a page in the forgotten book of flight. Then came the third rebellion, the birds. Their story began with dinosaurs. A strange lineage of feathered theropods, raptors, not reptiles. Their bones shrank. Their tails shortened. Feathers, once for warmth or display, became tools of the wind. Archaeopteryx was among the first, half bird, half beast. Clawed wings. Sharp teeth. But feathers, unmistakably. It flapped, perhaps clumsily, perhaps with grace. We may never know. But it was trying, desperately, to rise. Birds survived what the pterosaurs could not. When the asteroid came, when the earth burned and the sky choked on ash, birds endured. Small, light, buried in burrows or hiding among the branches. The giants vanished. The wings of bone and membrane were folded forever. But the feathered ones remained. Today, they rule the air, from the hummingbird to the condor. The pterosaurs thrown past not to machines, but to song. And yet, flight remains rare. Most creatures have never touched the sky. Most never will. Because to fly is to gamble everything. It demands sacrifice, hollow bones that shatter easily, metabolisms that burn like fire, wings so fragile they tear in storms. Flight is beautiful. But it is cruel. And fleeting. The physics alone are staggering. Lift must overcome weight. Thrust must outpace drag. The wings must be perfectly shaped, perfectly angled, perfectly balanced. Too heavy, and the body cannot rise. Too light, and the body cannot survive. Quetzalcoatlus balanced on that edge. At 250 kilograms or more, it was a biological paradox. It shouldn't have flown. Not by our logic. But it did. Because it didn't leap like a bird. It vaulted, using all four limbs like a spring. Like a monstrous, winged vampire leaping into the night. Its wings caught the air. Its hollow bones whispered against the wind. Its heart pumped hot, fast blood. And it rose. Not with flapping desperation, but with elegant, slow glides. Riding thermal currents, crossing ancient skies, scanning the earth like a god in exile. It was not built to hover. It was built to travel. To glide for miles. To vanish behind mountains. To return only as a shadow. It is easy to look at birds and forget what came before. But buried in their wings are echoes. DNA fragments. Bone shapes. Instincts. The will to fly did not begin with feathers. It began with risk. It began with creatures that looked at the treetops, or the cliffs, or the horizon, and thought, maybe. Flight is not just movement. It is memory. A dream the earth had once, and still remembers. And in that dream, Quetzalcoatlus was the pinnacle. The final, soaring stanza in a poem 200 million years in the making. We are not so different. We build planes. Rockets. Drones. We obsess over wind, lift, speed. Because something in us still yearns to follow. To chase that skyborne ghost. To rise, just once, as they did, on wings not of faith, but of bone and breath and will. Flight was never a gift. It was earned. To understand how something that massive ever left the ground, you have to understand the world it flew in. This was not our Earth. It was the late Cretaceous. Around 70 million years ago. A time of monsters and miracles. The continents were not where they are now. The Atlantic was still young. The air was warmer, no polar ice. Sea levels were higher. An enormous inland ocean split North America in two. To the west, lush river valleys and swamps. To the east, dense conifer forests and open plains crawling with life. And above it all, the sky. Clear, warm, rich in oxygen. Filled not with birds, but with giants. This world didn't just allow titans to live. It demanded them. Everywhere, life had gone big. Titanosaurs the length of tennis courts thundered through ancient jungles. Horned ceratopsians locked in slow, deadly battles. Tyrannosaurs stalked the shadows, jaws capable of crushing bone like twigs. And in the air, there was only one king. Quetzalcoatlus did not flap like a bird. It soared, silent and sovereign. Its wings stretched wide like a living hang glider. Its long neck moved like a serpent in slow motion. And when it landed, it moved with a strange, stalking grace, folding its wings like arms, walking on all fours, a silhouette of myth and muscle. It may have traveled hundreds of kilometers in a single glide. It may have crossed oceans. And no one knows what it ate. Some say it hunted like a heron, plucking small animals from riverbanks. Others believe it scavenged, its towering beak perfect for picking clean the corpses of fallen dinosaurs. Some think it stalked prey in silence, striking like lightning. A ghost above and a predator below. But no one really knows. Because it leaves no trail. Only questions. Its fossils are rare. Too rare for comfort. We found bones in Texas, Montana, Jordan, Romania. We know it lived in what is now dry, desert land, but once was rich, coastal terrain. Rivers wound through fern-choked forests. Rain fell in warm bursts. Insects sang in deafening swarms. The earth breathed heavily with life. And Quetzalcoatlus rose above it all. Its world had no machines. No fences. No cities. Only the raw theater of survival. And in that theater, size meant everything. To survive, you either got big or you disappeared. Everything about the Cretaceous was turned up to maximum. Bigger plants. Bigger predators. Bigger prey. And in the air, bigger wings. Because in this world, being small meant being eaten. But flight? Flight was escape. Flight was freedom. Still, it came at a cost. To fly at that size, Quetzalcoatlus had to be a miracle of balance. Every bone optimized. Every muscle tuned. It needed vast space to take off, no dense jungle, no cluttered cliffs. Just open plains and powerful limbs. It would run. Vault. Then vanish into the sky. And once it was up, nothing could touch it. It was above the tyrants. Above the swamps. Above time. But even this world, this hot, vast kingdom of beasts, had an expiration date. The climate was changing. The ocean shifting. Volcanoes rumbled beneath the crust. And somewhere, deep in space, a rock was coming. But for a time, our precious, burning moment, Quetzalcoatlus soared through a world that felt infinite. Its shadow drifted over the backs of sauropods, over craters and rivers, over eggs tucked into nests of mud and reeds. It may have seen fire, flood, drought. It may have chased the storms or fled from them. It was a witness to an earth we cannot imagine. And it left almost nothing behind. Just bones. Thin as paper. Shattered by time. And silence. The silence of skies that once thundered with wings too large to believe. Now, when we look at that world, we see fossils in museums. Labels and glass. Diagrams on classroom walls. But they do not speak of scale. Of majesty. Of what it meant to stand beneath something so impossibly vast and know that it could fly. That it chose to. Because this world, the world of giants, was not fiction. It was home. And Quetzalcoatlus? It was not an accident. It was the answer to the question, what is the sky capable of holding if given time? The world was alive. But it did not know it was dying. For millions of years, the giants ruled. The earth was loud with life, stomping, soaring, hissing, roaring. Every inch of land and sea brimming with struggle, birth, and breath. But the clock was already ticking. And the end would not come from the earth below. It would fall from the sky. 66 million years ago. A rock, 6 miles wide, traveling faster than sound, struck the planet near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. In 1 second, the world changed. The impact released more energy than 1 billion nuclear bombs. Forests turned to fire. Oceans boiled. Shockwaves circled the globe. Then came the dark. Ash choked the sky. The sun disappeared behind a curtain of dust. Temperatures plummeted. Photosynthesis stopped. Plants withered. Herbivores starved. Carnivores followed. And above it all, silence. No more wing beats. No more shadows drifting over rivers. No more sky kings. Quetzalcoatlus vanished. Not just it, but everything it belonged to. The pterosaurs. The non-avian dinosaurs. 3/4 of life on Earth erased in the geologic blink of an eye. For millions of years, they had ruled. Now they were fossils. This was not just extinction. This was apocalypse. And it began with fire raining from the heavens. For the creatures that had mastered the air, there was no escape. The warmth that once lifted their wings now burned. The thermals collapsed. The open skies turned cold and cruel. Quetzalcoatlus, the sky titan, may have seen it coming. It may have watched the sun disappear. It may have flown through ash, searching for food, for light, for anything that resembled the world it once knew. But nothing answered. The skies emptied. The great bones fell. And the wind carried no one. The age of giants ended, not with battle, not with decay, but with a single, unforgiving moment. A moment no creature could prepare for. A moment that reset everything. The giants of the sea, the land, and the sky were gone. But not all was lost. Some survived in shadows, in burrows, in silence. Tiny mammals, clinging to life beneath the wreckage of a world. And birds, those distant cousins of the dinosaurs, held onto the sky with fragile feathers and trembling hearts. Flight would rise again. But never like before. Because the world had changed. The air thinned. The warmth receded. The vast inland seas dried up. The forests fell back. The open plains became battlegrounds of survival. And the bones of the old kings sank beneath stone and time. Quetzalcoatlus left no children. No monument. No cry. Only questions. Why didn't the giants survive? Could they have adapted? Was it their size that doomed them, or the fragility of flight at that scale? We may never know. But we do know this. The sky forgot their wings. For millions of years, nothing dared to reach that size again. The air belonged to smaller things. To the careful, the quiet, the cautious. The age of titans had passed. And yet, they are not entirely gone. Because the earth remembers. Every fossil we uncover is a whisper. Every fragment of bone is a message sent through stone. Not of dominance, but of fragility. Not of terror, but of grace. They flew. They fell. And the sky has not been the same. Today, we rule from above with jets, with satellites, with flame. But none of our machines carry the soul of Quetzalcoatlus. None are made of breath and blood. None leap from earth with nothing but muscle and wind. We fly in defiance. They flew as birthright. And when they were gone, the world was quieter. As if it, too, mourned. Because something magnificent had left it. The extinction of Quetzalcoatlus was not just the end of a species. It was the closing of a chapter we never knew we were part of. The sky once held a god. And now it holds only echoes. Long after the sky titan fell, the sky still whispered his name. Not in science. In myth. Thousands of years passed. Ice came and went. Forests grew, fell, and rose again. The continents shifted. The seas carved new coasts. Humanity emerged, small, clever, restless. We built fires, then homes. Cities, then kingdoms. Stories, then gods. And in every corner of the earth, one image returned. Again and again. The winged serpent. In Mesoamerica, they called him Quetzalcoatl. The feathered serpent. The bringer of knowledge, the god of creation, of wind and sky and dawn. Sometimes he walked as a man. Other times, he soared. He was not feared. He was revered. To the Mexica, to the Toltecs, to the Maya, Quetzalcoatl was more than a god, he was a memory wrapped in divinity. A being both above and within. A bridge between the heavens and the earth. His temples pointed skyward. His legend spoke of flight. And his name, Quetzal, the emerald bird, Coatl, the serpent, bound the impossible together. Feathers and fangs. Flight and earth. Heaven and blood. Was this god born of imagination or fossil? In the deserts of Texas and Mexico, in the badlands of the Southwest, bones like cathedral beams lay hidden just beneath the surface. Bones of creatures too massive to believe, creatures that soared before man had language. Ancient peoples found them. They must have a femur the size of a spear, a wing bone light as driftwood, a jaw like a sword. What would you think, finding such a thing? They told stories of flying serpents that spoke with thunder, of gods who came from the clouds, of monsters turned into messengers. Across the world, other names emerged. The thunderbird, in the myths of the Great Plains, its wings summoned storms. Its shadow shook the earth. Garuda, the sky warrior of Hindu lore, half man, half eagle, enemy of serpents, stealer of immortality. Bennu, the sacred bird of Egypt, linked to the sun, to rebirth, to eternity. In each of these stories, something flew. Something divine. Something enormous. And in each of these stories, the line between God and beast was thin. Maybe it was coincidence. Or maybe we remembered. Not with facts, but with feeling. Not with science, but with spirit. Because the bones of Quetzalcoatlus were not just remnants of biology. They were monuments to possibility. And even if we forgot the name, we remembered the shape. The silhouette against the sky. The feeling of looking up and knowing something greater moved above us. For ancient peoples, flight was not a biological trick. It was a message. Wings meant transformation. Wings meant freedom. Wings meant divinity. We looked to the skies and gave them our hopes, our gods, our dead. Because only what flies can reach the place we cannot. And in that unreachable place, we placed the gods. So when the ancients carved the feathered serpent into stone, when they painted great winged beasts in caves, when they spoke of sky-born deities who brought fire, or wind, or the stars. Were they inventing? Or remembering? Not consciously. Not scientifically. But somewhere in the long memory of our species, deep in the bone, in the blood, was the echo of giants. And so the Sky Titan lived on. Not in flesh, but in faith. Quetzalcoatl became a symbol of knowledge, of healing, of balance. He was the morning star, the teacher, the fallen god who would return. His image wrapped around temples. His legend stretched across centuries. And yet, somewhere in that myth, was the shadow of something real. A creature with wings. A creature of silence and size. A creature that ruled the skies before memory began. In the absence of understanding, we reached for meaning. And what we could not explain, we made sacred. Even today, we do the same. We name planets after gods. We send rockets into the void with myths carved into metal. We whisper to the stars as if someone listens. Because deep down, we remember what it meant to look up and not feel alone. Quetzalcoatlus is gone. But Quetzalcoatl remains. The name changed. The meaning endured. A god who flies. A god who returns. A god who reminds us that the sky was never empty. For years, the bone sat in silence. Too big. Too strange. Too impossible. Even among scientists, Quetzalcoatlus was a riddle. A creature so massive it seemed to defy physics. For decades, it became a debate rather than a revelation. Could it really fly? Many said no. They called it a glider, a walker, a flightless relic at the end of a dying lineage. Some believed it used its wings only for display or balance, never for the sky. The mass, they argued, was too great. The wingspan too wide. The muscles not strong enough. Flight, they said, was a myth. But the bones disagreed. As technology advanced, so did the questions. CT scans replaced hand sketches. Digital models replaced clay molds. Supercomputers began to simulate what bones alone could not reveal. And what they found shocked everyone. The key wasn't just in the wings. It was in the launch. Unlike birds, which leap from their hind legs, Quetzalcoatlus used all four limbs, an explosive, catapult-like motion powered by immense forelimbs. A quadrupedal leap. Not like a bird, but like something else entirely. Not a runner. A launcher. In the span of 2 seconds, it could go from stillness to airborne. A vault into the sky, wings catching air, not by flapping, but by timing. Precision. Power. It didn't need to flap often. It didn't need to chase. It needed only to rise, find a thermal, and glide, using subtle shifts in its wings to navigate hundreds of kilometers without rest. The wings themselves were works of natural engineering, membranes of skin and muscle reinforced with stiffening fibers, capable of changing shape mid-air. No feathers. No fluff. Just raw aerodynamic design. And its body? Surprisingly lean. Everything reduced for flight, paper-thin bones filled with air sacs, massive lungs, fast metabolism. A living sailplane built from evolution's most ruthless lessons. The data was undeniable. Quetzalcoatlus didn't just fly. It may have been one of the most efficient long-distance flyers Earth has ever produced. Suddenly, the impossible was real again. But science didn't stop there. A new question emerged: what could we learn from it? Aerospace engineers began studying its proportions. NASA's biomimicry projects use pterosaur anatomy to test new drone designs, lightweight structures, elastic wing membranes, launch mechanisms that didn't rely on long runways. The Titan that once flew through prehistoric storms now inspired machines built for Mars. Its bones became blueprints. Its silence, a language. But even with the data, the doubt still lingered. Not in the math, but in the imagination. Because Quetzalcoatlus forces us to confront a reality that feels too large to accept. That something once flew above our heads, with a wingspan the size of a small plane, with no engines, no fuel, no tools. Just breath. Just bone. Just instinct. The mind resists it. Because the sky, our sky, feels like ours alone. We paved it with flight paths. We filled it with steel. We mapped it, named it, claimed it. But bones like these remind us, we were never the first. And we may not be the best. Even now, our most advanced aircraft struggle to match the quiet precision of something that lived 70 million years ago. And unlike us, it left no pollution. No contrails. No noise. Only wonder. In a world driven by facts, data, and control, Quetzalcoatlus stands as a monument to mystery. It asks us to let go of what seems likely and follow what is true. It invites us to see evolution not as a chain, but as a story. One that wrote a chapter in the clouds and then tore it out. And that chapter still speaks. Not in feathers, not in engines, but in the questions we ask and the way we look at the sky. Because sometimes science is not the end of mystery. It's the beginning of awe. The wings are gone. But the sky remembers. It remembers the silence after the last glide. It remembers the shadow that no longer passes overhead. It remembers the weightless Titan who left no cry, only wind. Today, the skies are filled with new wings. Flocks of birds, streaks of planes, drifting clouds. But none fly like that. We forget how rare flight is. How brutal the cost. How easily it is lost. 3 times in the history of life, evolution learned to rise. And 2 of those times, bit fell. But flight never truly dies. It leaves echoes. In the stretch of a stork's wing. In the curve of a drone. In the dreams of a child staring upward. The bones of Quetzalcoatlus are buried, but its shape lingers, in instinct, in legend, in design. It taught us what was possible. And then it left. But not without leaving a trace. Every time we launch something skyward, whether bird or machine or dream, we're answering a memory older than us. We do not fly to escape the earth. We fly because the sky was once alive. And deep down, we want it to be again. The sky has no memory. But we do. And somewhere in that memory, a shape still drifts, wings stretched wide, silent, ancient. Quetzalcoatlus is gone. No fossils can show us how it moved through storms. No artist can capture the breath of its first flight. We missed it by millions of years. But the Earth did not. It recorded everything, in stone, in silence, in shadow. And now we, the last ones to arrive, sift through the dust trying to understand the giants that came before. We name them. We measure them. But what we're really chasing is wonder. The sky is no longer wild. It hums with machines, schedules, control. But once, it held gods. And not the kind carved from stories. The kind built from bone and air and will. When you look up now, what do you see? Clouds? Light? Flight paths? Or Can you still hear the echo? A soft thunder in the distance. A forgotten pulse in the wind. A shadow that doesn't belong. Because the sky remembers. And so do we. We live in cities now. We build towers that pierce the clouds. We launch machines into orbit. But the first sky was not ours. Something flew before us. Something we cannot tame, cannot resurrect, only remember. What have we inherited from them? Not their wings. Not their silence. But perhaps their courage to rise. So now, we ask you, what is the oldest part of you? The part that still dreams of flight? The part that remembers something you've never seen? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your ancestors may have walked the earth, but your imagination still lives in the sky. And if this story moved you, subscribe. Because next time, we descend into stone temples older than the pyramids. Built not by kings, but by hands still stained with the memory of the hunt.